Yeah, so good morning all. So let us go with our first session. So we in the introduction, we have discussed all about like what is automation, why we are going for automation, right? So I'm just starting again from here. So I'm not reading the other things. Anyhow, I'm going to forward this document to you. Nothing to worry. So like when it comes to the Ansible, like what is Ansible? So Ansible is an open source automation platform, and it is a simple automation language that perfectly describes the IT application infrastructure and Ansible playbooks. It's also an automation engine that runs Ansible playbooks, right? So what is this Ansible playbooks? You should know. So as we were discussing, we usually write a script, right? Remember bash script or shell script. So in the same way, when you want to automate any task, you need to write a playbook, right? So how do we write a playbook? We are going to write a playbook using something called YAML language. Okay, it might be YML, YAML, or we can call this YML also. This is the you know way we call it as YAML. So using this YAML, we are going to write a playbook, and YAML is also very user-friendly coding language. I mean, it is similar to Python and Perl. It is similar to Shell, but it is more modernized, right? It is more smart compared to the other languages. And it is also very, very easy for us to learn, right? So Ansible can manage, powerful automation tasks and can adapt many different workflows in environment. Okay. So at the same time, the new user of Ansible can be very quick used to become productivity. Okay. So as a new user, as a newcomer, the people who want to learn the Ansible, they can just learn and they can work in their existing environment, and your working environment, your product, your work environment will be more productivity. Okay, so this is the exact information about like why we have to go for Ansible, right? And Ansible is very simple. As you know that why it is simple, because the playbooks are written in human readable automation language, right? And this means that playbooks are, automating tools that are also easy for human beings to read and comprehend the changes. Okay, so no special coding skills are required. So, many times when I see people who are learning the DevOps tool, priorly they will have the coding skill. Maybe they have a little knowledge on Shell, Bash, Python, Perl, Rail, Ruby, or some other language, like it might be a JSON, it might be a PowerShell, right? So really not required. We don't need any such dependencies here, right? Without any coding skills, you can start working with the playbook, right? Even as we discussed that Ansible is totally designed and developed through Python, but still we don't need to learn Python, right? Getting it? So this is how exactly it came into existence. So Michael Dehans has breaked all the dependencies and he have developed the Ansible for us, right? So that is the important thing. So that's the reason many people around the globe, I'm telling you, they are working on Ansible, right? As a consultant, as a, partners, they're working, and there is a very, very fast development is going on. And playbook executes task in order. So basically, when we are talking about a playbook, definitely the playbook contains the play contains the task. Assume that you are writing a 10 task inside a one play. The task order will be serial. What I say, serial. Serial in a sense, it will first execute the first task to a target host. Then it will try to execute the second task to the target host. And third, it will, you know, uh, a third again, it will execute third task, and it will complete it like this. It is going to go. So it is like a serial format. Okay, it's not a parallel. Okay, the simplicity of playbook design makes them usable by every team, right? So this is also very important thing. Whatever the playbooks you're writing it, right, that can be used by every team, right? In any other projects also, right? It might be a same flavor, or it might be other flavor also, we can use it. Okay, and which allows the people new to the Ansible to get productivity quickly. So Ansible is powerful. Why it is powerful? You can use Ansible to adapt applications, configuration management, workflow, automations and network automations, and even Ansible can be used to orchestrate the entire application lifecycle. So these are all the areas, the core areas where the Ansible is used. I'm telling you, and apart from this, I mean, nowadays the Ansible is also used for server provisioning. It is used, uh, server provisioning in a sense. Like I got a 10, new servers. It's a bare hardware. We don't have any OS on that. And even you can configure. Okay, someone asks you that in these 10 machines, we want to install VMware EFXI, and on top of that, we want to create some machines, right? Yes, even that kind of provisioning also we can perform using Ansible. And as we discussed before also, that Ansible can be, used for automating most of the IT infrastructure, softwares and hardwares using Ansible, right? So especially Ansible is majorly used nowadays at the cloud level. Very highly it is used, right? So this is the thing, and Ansible is agentless, as you know that Ansible is not an agent base, it is an agentless architecture. So when I say that it is agentless, so how it is going to connect? As we discussed, we are going to connect the control node and manage node using something called SSH. We don't have a special agent to connect between the server. Server is nothing but a control node, and the client is nothing but manage node. We don't need any special agent here. We are going to use a well-known service that is called SSH, and we are using SSH with the key-based authentication. With the key-based authentication, we are going to connect. This is how exactly it's going to be. Okay, and you should understand one more thing here is the control node will be always your Linux machine. Of course, now recent years, what I see is even your control node might be a Windows also. They are supporting it. Okay, and your managed node, as we discussed, it might be a Linux or Unix or Windows or Mac, or it might be a machine within the cloud environment. It might be a containers, it might be a router switch, anything. This is all about. Okay. So now when I talk about agentless, as we discussed, if it is a Linux machine, we are going to use OpenSSH. If it is a Windows machine, then we are going to use something called WinRM. And as you need to understand one more thing here is Ansible is purely a push mode software. So when I say push mode, what it is going to push from control node to manage node. So push is nothing but whatever the playbooks that we write here, right? The playbooks, and the playbook contains the play, okay, place, and play contains the task, and task contains the modules. So this entire code, whatever it is there within the playbook, right? This is being pushed from the control node to manage node, right? So how it is going to push? It is going to use a well-known service called SSH, and based on that, it is going to be, right? So this is basically how it's going to work here. Okay, and what it is, as I told you, right? The modules it is going to push to the remote host that is called manage host. What is this modules? How the modules are developed, as we discussed. Modules are developed based on the Python, right? So what it will do is it is going to push these modules to the managed node, and whatever the task you write within the playbook that is being performed. Once the task is performed, whatever the modules that is being pushed to from control node to manage node, it again gets removed. Again, it gets removed. This is what exactly it is going to happen, right? So these programs are used to put the system in a specific desired state. So what is mean by this specific desired state here? Assume that you have written a playbook to install a package using a module called yum, right? So it will hit that the manage node or a target machine, and it will first see whether the package is there or not. If it is not there, it will try to install and it will try to define the desired state, or it is going to put the machine into the required desired state. Because we want to install a package, right? It has to install and has to put it into a specific state. Now take an example. If the package is already there, then that means before it installs, already the machine is in the desired state. It do nothing. It do nothing. So this kind of term is called idempotent. We call it as an idempotent. Remember that. Okay. So any module that are pushed and removed when the Ansible finishes with its task, and you can start using Ansible almost immediately, because no special agents need to be approved, okay, for using them to deploy onto the managed host, because there is no agent, no additional custom security infrastructures. Ansible is more efficient and more secure than other alternatives. So these are the important things about the Ansible. This is an important thing, like why we call it as agentless. These are the benefits that we are going to get, right? Because as you know that in real-time projects, you know, approvals, NOCs, right, are very, very important when you want to add a node or a machine to your existing environment, right? But whereas when it comes to Ansible, because as we don't have any agent, it without any, you know, big discussions, you can just add and you can start using it, right? Now, Ansible has a number of important strengths here. What are the important strengths? Let's go with it. And it's basically a cross-platform support. When I say that it is a cross-platform support, basically it supports basically the, as I said, the control node might be on Linux or Unix and Windows. Okay, and you can manage, you know, most of the infrastructure related operating systems, hardware, softwares, or it might be network devices. Everything can be managed here, right? So you can just see this network devices, physical, virtual, cloud, and container environments. These are all the platforms that is being supported by the Ansible. Okay. So next, human readable automation, as we discussed, the playbooks are written in YAML text file. It is easy for you to read and okay and understand too, right? And next is perfect application description application here. So you know, every change can be made by the Ansible playbook, and every aspect of your application environment can be described and documented. So most of the time what we see, you know, documentation is a big problem of IT industry. Documentation is very big problem of IT industry. So you might ask me why the documentation is a very big problem here. Means very simple. When I just talk about documentation, you know, like take a small example. You got a task to implement something or to troubleshoot something. So what we will do is we will put all our 100% efforts and we try to get some solution, right? So after we try to fix it up and we have given a very good solution, okay, by discussing with your colleagues or you're getting some solution from outside or whatever it is. So then afterwards you get a very good, you know, people, the company appreciate you, and they ask you finally what, you know, you please create a documentation for this, implementation or the error fixing or whatever it is. So most of the times what we see in small companies I'm talking about, like we never create a documentation for it. So we will say tomorrow, day after tomorrow, finally we get a new good opportunity. We leave the company, we go to some other company. In the place of us, some other people will join. So because we don't have any documentation for whatever the deployments we have done, we have to again dig from the scratch, right? This is what exactly happens. So, Ansible, this DevOps tool, especially solve the documentation problem. Whatever the changes you're going to do, every change need to be documented here. It might be anything, even you're performing health check, even you are trying to copy a file, or you are trying to update a kernel, or you are trying to install a package, right? Or else you are doing some configuration changes to your database or web server, right? Anything you do, or you are trying to increase or decrease the volume, or you are trying to create a new volume, right? Or it might be anything that you are going to do through the Ansible or through the DevOps tool. That particular thing has to be properly documented using a playbook. Not only documented, that has to be certified and get approval, and then only you should able to run it. This is what exactly happens. Okay, and easy to manage in version control. So basically, version control is not a part of our system administration, as you know that it is totally related to the DevOps side. The developers who develop the code, you know, and they just try to send it to the testers, and tester will send it to the uh, you know quality analyst, right? So basically, if any changes, any bugs are there, they revert back the code again, they make some changes, and they try to define the version controls there. So we are not going to involve much into version controls. Okay, and then the next thing is support for the dynamic inventories. When I'm just talking about dynamic inventories here, so basically, as we discuss what is inventory here, a list of machines that Ansible manages. Okay, that is called inventory. And inventories are of two types, as we discussed. One will be a static inventory, another will be a dynamic inventory, right? So when I just say static inventory here, basically we try to gather the host names and you know IP addresses or fully qualified domain names. Okay, and what we do is we try to put it into a file with the name called inventory, and whenever you are trying to target a particular machine, it try to cross check the inventory. If the host name is existing, then only it will perform the task. If host name or IP address or fully qualified domain name is not existing, so it simply skips that particular task, right, to that particular host. So this is what. So inventories are of two types. One is static and another is dynamic. We will also discuss dynamic. Dynamic inventories are especially used for cloud environment, virtualization environment, or when you are going with containers and Kubernetes, because there are machines dynamically comes up and goes dynamically down. Dynamically in a sense, when you just power on the uh, take an example, a cloud environment, you are trying to power on 50 machines, automatically their host names will come up. When you shut down, again their host names will remove. Again you power on, the machine names will be keep on changing, right? This is what exactly. And we have something called orchestration that integrates easily with other systems. Like you can integrate your Ansible with HPSA or Puppet, Jenkins, or Red Hat Satellite Server. Or there are many other tools the Ansible supports. Even it supports the other tools also. Like you have a service now, or you have something called LDAP, you have Windows AD. Okay, there are many other third-party tools that is being used. to integrate with Ansible. This is all about. So basically the language of DevOps is this basically. So these are the core areas. These are the areas that Ansible is going to support. So you can take from development, test, QA, operations, management, and outsourcing. Okay. So this is the things, right? So these are all the areas it is going to support and Ansible concepts and architecture. So what is this Ansible concept and architecture? We are going to discuss detailedly about the Ansible terminology. First of all, you should know one thing here. The Ansible consists of two machines. One will be a control node. The another one will be a managed node, right? So you should know, first of all, what is control node here. So control node is a machine where Ansible is installed. Ansible is installed, okay, and run, installed and running, okay. So when I say that the control node is a machine where Ansible is installed and running, assume that this is my control node here. Okay, like where the Ansible is installed. Okay, so when I say that this is a control node, like Ansible, like we try to use this command yum install Ansible. So whenever it is trying to install the Ansible, right, the dependency packages will be Python, remember. That too Python latest version it is going to install. So I'll just try to give you Python 36 is the latest version in 8. So it is going to install this back. So you might be having a doubt why Python only means, because as we discussed, Ansible modules are developed based on the Python, you know that. And it when this modules has to be pushed and gets executed, it need a code Python program, right? So that's a very, very important thing that you need to understand here. So as you understood that the control node is a machine where the Ansible is installed. But most of the time people have a doubt. See, you are saying control node, right? And it should be a dedicated machine or it should be a shared machine, or it should be a physical machine, or it should be a virtual machine, or it should be a cloud. What exactly the control node should be, right? See, very simple. When I'm just talking about a control node, it can be an any type of machine. Any type means, first of all, you should know it might be your desktop, it might be your laptop, or it might be a machine which is the machine is shared by many different teams or departments. What does it mean? On one machine, one server, we have a Java running, Oracle running, web server is deployed, some other tools are running. Now many people have a question, can I install Ansible there? Can I configure it as a control node? Yes, 100%. 100% you can do it. 100% you can do it. You're getting my point. 100% we can do it because the control node can be any machine, any shared machine. There is nothing like that. It should be a dedicated machine. Nothing, because we are not going to do anything on a control node. As you know that we are going to perform everything on a managed node. Now you will ask me what we are going to do on a control node. The control node is just to install Ansible and write the playbooks and push the playbooks to the respective managed node. Push the code to the respective managed node. So when you push the code, the entire administration, entire changes will happen only on the managed node, not on the control node. These are very important things. Getting it? So this is all about like how the control node is, and it might be any machine on your environment. It is nothing like that, like many, it should be a dedicated machine. And it can be a machine on your cloud, it might be a container, it can be a EC2 instance on your any cloud environment, right? So this is what exactly. So there is no dependencies, there is no mandatory rule saying that it should be a dedicated machine, right? The first thing, this is all about the control node, right? Now find when I'm just talking about a control node here. Now let me talk something about the managed node. What should be a managed node exactly? A managed node is nothing but the managed hosts are the list in an inventory. Okay, what is this here? So assume that this is my managed node. or there are many managed nodes we are having like this. We have many managed nodes like this, right? This will become a managed node to my control node when you try to gather these host names or IP addresses and try to put it into the control node, like with something called inventory. This is something called inventory, right? Inventory is a file. Inventory is a file here, right? Like, basically we have a file called etc host file. You know what is the use of etc host file? When you want to communicate with the remote machine, when you want to communicate with the remote machine, okay, with host name, not, I'm not talking about IP address, only with the host name. What you will do, you will try to gather the IP addresses and host name of that machine and try to update the etc host file, so that next time when you start communicating without, I mean, with the help of host name, you try to communicate. At the same time, when I talk about inventory, inventory is a file where we try to update the server names. Like I'll try to put like this: server A, server B, server C, server D, or it might be something called system A dot lab dot com or system B dot lab dot com. Or you can put IP address also there in this. You can put IP address also, nothing like that. Okay, you can put 192.168.27 dot something called 20. Okay, so this is basically how its inventories are going to work. This is the inventory. So whatever the host name you define here, that only you can target. That machine only you can, on that machine only you can run the playbook or execute the playbook. You're getting it? If you don't define that host name or IP address or fully qualified domain name in this file, then if you try to run a playbook for that particular target host, it simply says unreachable. It simply says unreachable because it cannot reach that machine. It cannot perform the playbook. It cannot run the playbook. This is very, very important. So remember, manage node is nothing but our target node, but we are going to recognize it as a target node when you try to list their machine's name within the inventory. This is very, very important thing. This is very, very important thing that you need to understand, right? Good. Now up to here, I hope you understood what is control node and manage node, right? Now what we will do is we will try to go forward. So manage node we discuss, and which also organizes those systems into a group for easier collective management. So what is this group here? Why we need to put inventory or list of managed nodes in a group? Because when you want to perform some kind of collective operations, what is this collective operations is? Assume that we take example about a cloud, right? Inside the cloud, we try to host the EC2 instance based on the reasons, right? Getting it? You will try to, in US, we have a 4 reasons. In India, we have a 1 or 2 reasons. In Singapore, 1 reason. UK, 1 reason. Like this we have, right? Assume that we take, there is a reason here, like USA. We have another user, UK. We have another reason that is called India. We have another reason that is called Singapore, right? Just take an example. USA, UK, and India, and Singapore, right? This is what we have. Assume that in every region, we have a 2 web servers. We have a 2 web servers here, or it might be web server or database server. It might be anything. We have a 2 web servers like this. So as we have a 2 web servers, basically most of the time you're going to manage this environment. Assume that you're sitting here with your laptop or desktop. Okay, and what you will do is you will try to write a playbook and you will try to hit that machine, right? But whatever the playbook that you're going to write, you know, and you are writing this playbook only for this environment, you will try to target this environment only, right? If you're writing any playbook for this environment, you will target this environment. But there are some times where you need to perform a task commonly on all the environments. So what I need to do now, instead of running the playbook for individually for one reason, what I want to do collectively, I want to perform on all the reasons at a time. Okay, maybe I'm doing some configuration changes. Maybe I am trying to add some patch. The client asked me that it's a security patch, you need to update at a time on all the reasons, right? So the changes should take place immediate, I mean, on all the regions at a time. Okay, we have taken a downtime some weekend or some long weekend came or something. I mean, we don't have a production on that particular day. We know that we want to apply that. So what we will do now, very simple. We will try to create a playbook, and inside the playbook, I mean, whatever, I mean, whenever you want to target this all regions at a time, what we will do inside the inventory, right? Inside the inventory, assume that we have a machines like this system a dot usa dot com, sorry, dot com. Okay, system b dot usa dot com. Like we have like this, we have a machines for UK also. System a dot uk dot com, system b dot uk dot com, and we have a system a dot india dot com, right? System b dot india dot com, and system a dot sin singapore dot com, system b dot singapore dot com. Like this, we have a machines. Now what I'll do is when we see this kind of machines here, right now what I'll do is, this is an individual machines, right? I want to group it. So what I'll do is I'll copy this. Okay, so I'll try to just come down, or I'll try to show you how do we define this as a group. I'll try to put it here in a group here. Sorry, I'll try to take this 1 minute. I did not copy this. I'll take this, and what I do is very simple. I'll try to create a group on top here with the name called something called web server. So now what I'll do is very simple. Instead of representing the machines called system A.US, system B.US or UK or some other thing, I'll try to bring all this machine under a one group called web server. Now what I do, instead of putting all these 8 machines, I'll try to put web server there in a playbook. And when I put web server, it is going to hit all these 8 machines at a time, and it will try to perform the task. So this is something called a group level inventories we call, right? This is called host groups. This is something called host groups, it is called, right? So the inventory can be defined in a static file or dynamic, as we discussed. When I say dynamic, basically there are some scripts which is being used to, you know, get information from external sources. So instead of writing a complex script, instead of writing a complex script, Ansible users create a high level play to ensure the host or a group of hosts are in a particular state, right? And the play performs a series of tasks on a host and all orders the, you know, specified by the play. And these plays are expressed in YAML as we discussed, and the file that contain one or more plays are called playbook. So this is what. And when we talk about each task runs a module, module is nothing but it's a small piece of code written in Python or PowerShell and with specific argument. Each module is essentially a toolkit. I mean, tool in your toolkit, and Ansible shift with hundreds of modules. So this is also a very important thing. When I just talk about hundreds of modules, you should know. Okay, I'll try to show you like how many modules this Ansible has been shipped with. Around 3,300 change modules. This has been provided by the Ansible Red Hat right now. But as you know that uh, there are many uh, what we say company, I mean many people are working on the Ansible modules they are trying to develop. So even that modules also are used inside the Ansible. Okay, that is called a community level Ansible and partner. There are so many companies who work as a partner to the Ansible, even that can be used. So I'm trying to connect to the control node here. This is my control node. This is an existing setup. We will also set up a lab maybe by tomorrow. Okay, I'll try to show you like how do we set up a lab environment. It's not tough. It is very, very simple. So let's get into the control node here. So basically, how do we know that Ansible is installed? So basically, you can just run Ansible hyphen hyphen version. So when you run Ansible hyphen hyphen version, it is going to give you the latest, I mean, the current version of Ansible is installed. That is called 2.9.27. And then when I just talk about this is a location where the configuration file is existing. And this is a location where the Ansible modules are stored. So you can just get into this modules here. I'll just try to say ls. You need to go into the directory called modules and just say ls. So these are the categories of modules that you see, right? So we have something called cloud and I mean crypto cluster, right? You can just see network, storage, web interface, infrastructures. So many things we have. So let's do one thing. I'll just try to go into something called network. As we get into the network, you can see these are all the network devices of different companies or different vendors are supported here. Getting it. Okay. So, and as you know that all this modules are designed based on the Python, right? So I'll just try to take you to the other directory. Assume that we will try to go for something called STO storage. So this all the storage it supports. Like take an example. I'll go with pure store. Pure storage is nothing but it's a product of IBM. So this you see all the modules are written based on PY. PY stands for Python. You can read this, yes, 100% we can read. You can take any module and you can start reading it. Okay, if you are Python, I mean, if you know Python very well, it will be very easy for you. Otherwise, if you're not a Python, still Python is also very user-friendly coding language compared to Shell or other things. So it will be easy only for you to understand. See, so this is what exactly. So remember, this is a basically we went into the location, but most of the time we don't remember this, right? So you will ask me, is there any command to list all the modules? Yes, we have. So we need to use Ansible hyphen doc is a command, okay, followed by hyphen L. So if you put run this particular command, this is going to list the, you know, the documentation for all the modules. This are all the documentation for all the modules. You can see this. And I'll just try to show you the count here. There are around 3,387 modules that we have on the version that is in install. Okay, when you upgrade your the lower version to higher version, or if you're installing the latest version, definitely this count might change. This count might change. So this is basically how it's going to be. Okay, so this is all about uh, and as you know that every module will have a specific arguments. Arguments are very, very important. Why arguments are very, very important means, for example, I will just try to show you. You want to you install a package, so you need to use a module called yum, right? So yum module is only not sufficient. We have so many options for it. So many options. Can you see? These are all the options that we have. These are all the options that we are having, right? So this is all the examples that you can see. And each module is essentially a toolkit in your, okay, a tool in your toolkit. And Ansible ships hundreds of useful modules can be perform variety of automation tasks. And they can act on system files, install softwares, and make API calls. You might ask me, what is API calls? API stands for Application Program Interface. If you want to connect to your cloud environment, you need to make an API call from your control node to manage node, right? This is called API calls, right? And when use a task, a module generally ensures that some particular aspect of the machine is in a particular state. What is mean by this? Like you want to see whether a file is existing or a particular file has a particular permission content. Yes, you need to write a playbook for it. The playbook, when you run it, it will go to the target machine and checks whether the file is existing. Then okay. If a file is existing, whether the file has a respective permissions, what you're looking, whether the file has the content that you are looking for, not a problem. If it is not there, then what it will do? It will try to create a file. It will try to set the permissions, and it will also add the data to the file. This is what exactly happens. The playbook works in such way. If it is there, it do nothing. If it is not there, then what it will do? It will create it. Okay. So while the task uses different modules may make certain, so particular file system is mounted or not, it will check. Particular file system is mounted or not, it will check. Okay. Or else you want to see like a particular service is enabled or not, whether it is started or not, it will check it. This is what. And one more thing you need to understand, if a task fails, Ansible default behavior is to above the rest of the playbook to the host for the host that has failure. Getting my point? Okay. So this is what exactly it is going to work. Okay. Assume that you have written a playbook, and inside that we have one play, and the play contain 10 tasks. Okay, the first task is to install HTTP, second task is to start the service, and third task is to copy the configuration file, and the fourth task to test something, and fifth task again to restart the service. Assume that like this. So suddenly something went wrong with the third task, the copy did not happen properly. So immediately after the third task fails, immediately it will about the fourth, fifth, sixth, seven, eight, nine, 10 to that particular host. This is a default behavior of Ansible. It about why it will about, it thinks that because the third task is failed, maybe based on the third task, the fourth task has been designed. If a third task is only failed, simply the fourth task also failed. So in this order, what it will do is it is going to about the entire playbook for that particular host. There's a big problem, serious problem, I'm telling you. Why? Because right now we are writing a playbook. The playbook contains single play, or the play contains a 4 or 5 task only. But when you go to the real-time project, right, you will see the playbook contains a play, and play contains nearly 50, 60, 100 tasks. And due to some reasons, because you did not properly configure it, a fourth or fifth task fail, and immediately rest of all tasks fail. Time waste, right? Right. So, but in the future sessions, we will discuss if really that happens, if that particular task fails, how do we recover it? Okay, so we have a concepts regarding that. So handling the task failures, we have a concept on that. We will discuss there if really a task fails. Okay, instead of abouting the entire playbook for that particular target host, it should still run even if failure happens. So how it will be done, we will discuss later. And the task plays and playbooks are designed in idempotent. As I told you, what is idempotent? Because this is all designed in idempotent. That's the reason you can run it for many times. You can run it for many times. This means that you can safely run the playbook on the same host multiple times. When your system are in a correct state, the playbook makes no changes. And when you run it, and this means that you should able to run a playbook on the same host multiple times safely. When your system are in a correct state, the playbook should make no changes. When you run it, there are a handful of modules that can use to run arbitrary commands, and you must use those modules with carefully to ensure that they run in an idempotent way. Ansible also uses the plugins. Plugins are the code that can be added to Ansible to extend it. Okay, so this is what Ansible architecture is agentless, as we discussed. If you go for Linux and Unix, we use SSH. If it is Windows, we use WinRM. And you should understand Ansible Tower. We will discuss detailedly about Ansible Tower after 2-3 weeks. Okay, because we are going to discuss that will be another 10 hours training we will have. We will discuss detailedly about the tower concept there. But you need to understand few things about tower. Tower is for enterprise level workflow, right? And it is totally a web-based UI. Okay, it is a totally a web-based UI. Okay, so using a browser, you will try to connect to the tower console, and you'll try to manage your entire environment. There are a lot of differences between the engine and tower also, right? Take an example when it comes to engine. Engine doesn't maintain any log, but log is nothing but you're running so many tasks, right? You should need some log. Say later somewhere after 1 month, 2 months, someone asks you something else. You need to see a log, right? We don't have a log for engine, but whereas when you go for a tower, we have a log, right? We don't have a control when it comes to engine. We don't have a control on your playbooks and inventories, because in engine we don't have any kind of role based access, right? But when you go for tower, yes, we have a control on the users. Okay, which user have to access which playbook, which inventory, where he have to work. We can design all these things. Okay, so that like this, we have so many differences. We have inside the engine, we don't have a scheduler. Inside the tower, we have a scheduler. What is this scheduler is for? You have written a playbook, but I don't want to run it immediately. I want to run somewhere in the night, 2 o'clock, because that will be a non-production hour for me. Okay, you're getting my point. So basically, we can schedule it using a scheduler inside the tower, right? Even the notification feature is there inside the tower. Notification means like when the scheduled playbook got executed or it failed, the notification will be generated and sent to your email address or phone number, right? So these kind of features are being provided at the tower. That's the reason it is called enterprise level framework. Like this, there are so many other features that tower is going to perform. Is this clear? Right? So this is all about like how it is going to work. So from last 10-15 minutes, whatever we are discussing about this particular image. We are discussing about this particular image: user, playbook, inventory, module, API, plugins, CMDB. Okay, we are discussing about private and public cloud, all this thing. Any doubts here, any queries you can ask me. And as you know that Ansible way, as you know, the complexity kills the productivity. In most of the environment, what we see is we try to build our environment in very simple, very understandable way. Anyone they get, the new people who gets into the project, by seeing the connectivities and all this thing, they should understand, oh, this is working like this. It should not be more complex. If it is more complex, what happens? If sudden some issue comes and the people who are working in the environment, they don't understand how the environment has been built, then it will be really a problem, right? Even a 10-20 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour task also, it will take 8 hours, 20 hours like this. Optimizes the readability, because as we discussed, we try to use YAML. So it is very clear, human readable automation language, and think declaratively. So Ansible is a desired state engine. You know what is this desired state? Okay, you want to install some package. If it is there, it do nothing. If it is not there, it will try to install it. That is called as desired state engine. It's approach the problem of how to automate an IT deployment, all these things. So this image is all about it. And we talk about use case here. When I just talk about use case here, first thing is configuration management. So what is configuration management? Centralizing configuration management, configuration file management and deploying meant is a common use case for Ansible, right? So this is what exactly, and it is how many pub users are first introduced to the Ansible automation platform. So this is what. So centralization, you can put everything into a single file and start deploying it. Centralization is important. Application deployment, when you define your application with Ansible and manage the deployment with Red Hat Ansible Tower team, can effectively manage the entire application lifecycle for development to production. This is the advantage when you go for it, right? This is the thing from development to production. And provisioning, you know that what is provisioning? Application has to be deployed and installed on a system. Ansible Tower can help streamline the process and provisioning the system. Okay, so we have something called, you know, PXE boot, right? Pre-execution boot environment. Using a Kickstart, we try to do it. You can install in a bare metal servers, virtual machines, and cloud. So this is what exactly. And we have something called CI/CD, that is called CI/CD pipelines. It is especially not for us. It is purely for the DevOps admins. Why? Because they try to work on the application coding, developing, testing, all these things. They will take care about it. And security and compliances. Security compliances is nothing but you can manage your, um, when your security policies is defined in Ansible playbook. So this is what exactly like security company firewalls. There's so many other tools we have. And orchestration is nothing but a configuration alone. Uh, do not define your environment. You need to define your how multiple configuration interacts with and ensures the the separate piece. This is what exactly. Orchestration is nothing but it's a continuous workflow. Installing application doesn't fulfill your requirement. After installing application, you need to secure the application. You need to um, you know secure it, then connect with server and client. And if you are making continuously changes to the applications, okay, so the continuous workflow is called orchestration here, right? There is a lot of differences between automation and work. There is a lot of differences between automation and orchestration. Automating is nothing but one or two tasks. Orchestration is nothing but it's a continuous workflow. So this is all about. Then if you want to know more about how Ansible will work, so there are some links provided by the Red Hat. You can just click on this and you can go on to this link. You can just, I'll be forwarding this document by tomorrow. So Ansible is efficient architecture, SSH key, how it is going. This is an inventory model. Can you see this? So how these inventories are looking. So many informations you have. Okay, and if you want to know like how the documentation is, this is a site like where you can go. You can join the webinar. So many things. Red Hat is nowadays conducting so many informations here. You can gain more knowledge using this site. And when we talk about documentation, docs.ansible.com is a site where you can go for the documentation. So you can click on Ansible community documentation here. Then we have Ansible community documentation. Just click on this. When you just click on this, then it starts. See, right now the latest version is 5, but we are still working with 2.9 only. Okay, so this is all the installation guide. I mean, this is all the entire administration guide. You can go with all this documentation, installation guide. We have a user guide, Ansible community guide. We have developer guide. We are having so many things we have. Can you see this? You want to go with user guide? Yes. 1 minute. This is a user guide. Now you can just go with working with inventories, interacting with data. A lot of information you will see. So you see what we discussed: control node, manage node, inventory, collection, module, task, playbook, ad hoc commands. So much information you have. And there is a small quiz here. You can just observe. Which of the following term describes the Ansible architecture? So basically, can you answer this? Which of the following term describes best to describe the Ansible architecture? Is it agentless or client and server or event driven or stateless? So basically it is which one? The answer is, I think it's agentless, right? Because we don't need any agent to connect from server to client to server. And which network protocol does Ansible uses by default to communicate with managed node? Are we going to communicate using HTTP or HTTPS or SNMP or SSH? So we are going to use SSH, right? So which of the following file, yeah, which of the following file defines the action that Ansible performs on managed node? So what is that? Basically, it's a playbook. And what syntax is used to define Ansible playbook? We try to use something called YAML. When you have answers here, you can just go through it. Okay, so I hope still here. Any doubts you can ask me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So when
please.
it comes to real-time environment, like
Mhm.
how people are using like Ansible with respect to like Linux. Like for example, I'm only talking about on-premise right now.
Mhm.
Like for example, they have VMware and ESXi and a
Mhm.
few hundred like Linux, different flavors of Linux.
Mhm.
Linux. Like, are they using to set up the provision Linux box using Ansible, like using Pixie boot and Kickstart file,
Mhm.
and later configure using Ansible
Uh,
end to end? Like how they are doing? Like, could you give me some idea?
So basically, see, when it comes to virtualization, what I have seen is, first of all, like take an example, you are trying to create a 10 virtual machines. Assume that. So first of all, you need to write a playbook to create a virtual machines, right? So, but when you're creating a virtual machines, when you talk about a virtual machine point of view, how you would this created virtual machine? Definitely, a virtual machine has some configuration, right? Assume that this is my virtual machine. Assume that I'm having a virtual machine with the name called manage node. It has some specific configuration, right? 2 GB RAM, one processor, and you will say that my hard disk should be 40 GB or 80 GB or 100 GB or 1 TB, or it should be a type of SATA, or whether it should be a type of other types, or whether you will say that I need in a one network interface and it should be NAT bridge or some other thing. Okay, you will get this kind of descriptions there, right? So based on this description, you will try to customize the things. So first of all, before you customize the things, you should know which module is going to fulfill your requirement, right? For example, you want to create a virtual machine. Okay, so which module is going to work on it? and you will try to take that module. Module is not really uh, is the final thing, because with the module there will be hundreds of arguments will be there. If you want to customize all these things, you need to definitely go with the arguments. Okay, once you go with the arguments, then you will write a playbook to create 10 virtual machine, and you will try to install the OS, whatever they give you. Okay, they said that you got a mail saying that on 10 machines we want to install Ubuntu or Red Hat. Okay, you will install it, create virtual machine and install. But after installing the OS within the machine, you want to do some configurations. What is that? Sometimes you get a requirement saying that the 5 machines we want to use it for web server, 5 machines we want to use for database. Now what you will do after creating a virtual machine, again you need to write a playbook for another first 5 machines, like it is for database server, the second 5 machines for web server. You're getting my point? Okay, so this will be a flow of configurations that we are going to follow, and we are going to work on it.
I understand that, but like,
Mm.
are they using Ansible playbooks to set up end to end from like
Yes, yes,
provisioning? Okay.
yes,
We-
it is
Uh,
there.
okay. Do you get a chance to like do a quick demo on like creating the a Linux couple of Linux box using Pixie boot and Kickstart, and later configure a couple of packages
That we will
in
see.
our lab?
Lab, we are not going in much into it. I'll try to show you how to
Okay.
interact. See, small example I will tell you. You know how to create a easy to install on a cloud environment, right?
Yeah.
It might
Yeah.
see, basically if I'm having a VMware ESXi box with me, okay, you will try to connect that ESXi box using some tool. Okay, you might be having some small agent where we connect the virtual. I mean, so nowadays we are connecting through browser only, assume that through HTTP. So once you connect, you know, anyhow, many people know how to create a virtual machine because we are very much experienced with workstation. The same kind of process we will be following that, right? So the problem is not creating a virtual machine. The problem is creating a communication between your control node and VMware ESXi, creating a communication between your control node and a cloud environment is very important.
Mm.
So what we will do is, we are not taking more examples here. I'll try to show you, like as we configure tomorrow lab. Tomorrow lab will be totally on Linux, right? And in between, we will take one managed node as Ubuntu, one managed node as Windows, and in future we will see dynamic inventories where we will go with AWS cloud environment. If possible, I will also create one ESXi machine, and I will try to show you how do we communicate from your control node to ESXi machine, right? Then later, like we will try to go with the modules. Modules, in a sense, take a small example. You're talking about VMware, right? So I'll just try to Ansible hyphen version. Okay. So CD, I'll just try to get into this location here, and I'll just try to get into the modules, and I'll go to the VMware cloud. We need to go into the cloud. As we go into the cloud, there will be a directory with the name called VMware CD VMware. As you go into the VMware, then this is all the modules that we have. So take a small example, like you want to create a machine, a virtual machine, right? Cluster we have, DRS we have, EBS host, guest file move, VM guest disk.
Oh, okay.
We need to first to find out the module. That is very important. I am just looking for it. Even I did not
No,
look.
no, that's okay.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. So the thing is, how people are doing is like they are automating end to end, like including like
Yes.
okay, provisioning and configuration.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything we can do. You can see this. See DNS facts. So many things we have. Take a small
Uh,
example. We will go for VMware guest.
yeah,
Okay. So let
provisioning.
me.
Yeah.
Yes. We will just see Ansible hyphen doc. Ansible doc. I'll just try to put VM guest. See what it is exactly saying. This module is maintained by Ansible community. But what is the exact use of this? This module is used to create a new virtual machine. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, from a template or a virtual machine. Okay,
Oh,
then
okay.
manage
Okay.
what you can do here using this you manage power state, virtual machine to power off, power on, suspend, shutdown. This is all can be done here. But you will ask me, okay, fine, we will create a virtual machine. We will try to maintain the state. But how you will do inside the virtual machine? Inside means you will install some OS, right? Yes, after installing OS, definitely you will put host name and IP address, right? And using
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
host name or IP address, again, we'll try to create a playbook or we will try to write a playbook within the same play. Okay. Then we try to hit the things,
Okay.
right?
So
So
not only host, we can manage guest also. Okay.
guest also, host,
Like
guest,
by
get
creating.
you can manage host, you can manage guest. Inside the guest configurations also you can manage.
Oh, okay.
Assume that
Cool.
inside the guest, someone asks you to install database. Okay, they want me to configure some clusters. Okay, they want me to configure some replications. Yeah, 100% we can do. 100% we can do. Take an example, you'll say that if I don't have a module for it, nothing to worry. You can go to the Red Hat and you can just put your requirements to them. They'll try to provide you a module. That's not a problem. Right now we are using a trial version. That's the reason we are having 3,387, 89 modules we are having. If you want more modules, yes, you can contact them. Okay, because all over the globe, there are thousands of lakhs of people are working on the Ansible. The development is going on very high speed. Okay, there are, even if you are good at Python, right, you can develop your own modules for your softwares and tools, right? So this is what
Yeah.
exactly happened. Yes, 100% we can manage everything. I'm telling you, everything.
Oh, okay. Cool. So
Mm.
that's what people are doing in real time right now when it
Yes,
comes to
yes,
VMware and Linux environment. Okay. Cool.
they're doing it.
And oh, okay.
Mm,
So and the versions, right? We are currently using 2.9 and
mm,
X,
mm.
and latest version is 5. Obviously, it may not be stable. So like in case, like for example, we are learning 2.9 right now, and in case like if we want to use like some latest, like not latest, like
Mm,
probably it could be 3.x or 4.x in real
mm.
time. So these playbooks are like backward compatible, right? With some new features in the
Yeah,
latest
yeah.
version.
See, playbooks, yes, it has definitely a backward compatibility. I don't say that it is not there. But based on the new versions and new releases, they might be providing a new modules.
Okay,
For example, I will tell you when it comes to Red Hat 6 to Red Hat 7. In Red Hat 6, we used to have a module called service for
correct, correct.
enabling and starting the services. But when it comes to why it is service, because in Red Hat 6 we had a init. That's the
This
reason we
we need.
used to, yeah. But in Red
Yeah,
Hat 7, they replaced the init with systemd, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. The total way of managing services has been changed from 6 to 7, right?
Correct,
So
correct.
now
Yes.
what people are doing is what Ansible is done is they kept service module like that only, and they introduced a new module called systemd.
Yeah,
Okay,
I got.
for what reason systemd is? If people are comfortable with service, they will go with service. If they are not comfortable with service, they will go for systemd. Maybe compared to service, systemd will provide you some more features. Like this, it will be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is what. So even modules are designed. I mean, it has some states. All these things we will be discussing it. You know, we will be discussing in the coming sessions here. Okay. So this is all about.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah.
So this is all about now. Actually, we need to go with the lab environment here. So for creating a lab, basically we have to create a two missions. Okay. So one should be a control node and one should be a manage node. Remember. So as we need to create a two missions, one should be a control node and one should be a manage node here. And after creating these two missions, now you need to start installing the packages on top of it and configuring it. All these things will be done. So anyhow, that's not a problem. The lab setup, we will be doing it tomorrow. Okay, we will join same time tomorrow at 7 a.m. Okay, and we will try to look into a lab setup, right? So initially, I'll try to show you on my machine like how do we set up a lab setup. And you can also do it parallelly. Only thing is make sure that you have a latest copy of Red Hat Linux. Latest copy means it is should not be 9, it should be 8.5 or 8.6, whatever it is available to you. Just make sure that you have a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8.5 or 8.6. And if you have VMware, just to VMware workstation, that will be sufficient, because you need to set up a lab, right? Without VMware workstation, it is tough to install Linux. So it is better you can download the, if I'll also give you the links from where you can download all this uh, softwares. So Linux, you can download it from the directly from the Red Hat site. Oh, 1 minute. You can download from the Red Hat site here. So the site is access.redhat.com. Access.redhat.com is the website where you need to get in. Where we came.
I actually have quick question. I actually have like this is called like VMware Player on MacBook. I don't know whether my architecture supports that, but
Player also will
yeah,
work. That's not a problem.
no. The Red Hat OS architecture, like
So
it's
it's
a
up.
M1. One
Mhm.
second. It's okay. I think we'll figure out somehow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is the site from where you can just create a login, or you can just click on Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Then it comes here. If you have access, I mean, you have username and password already registered, you can put it here and get into the account. Otherwise, you need to click on register for a Red Hat account. And when you click on register for Red Hat account, you need to create a personal account here and just try to fill all these things. The account gets created. You will get one confirmation mail to your mail address. Once you get a confirmation mail, then you just try to click that confirmation mail and it will try to allow you to download the software. Okay. So take a small example. I'll just try to show you. I'm having my, so I think my password is logged in. The login, then see here, it comes somewhere here. Actually, it is coming somewhere. Actually, it comes like this. Then you need to click on products and you need to click on infrastructure and go with Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Then it comes like this. See, you have to download the Red Hat 8.5. You can download 9 also. It's a beta version. It's up to you if you want to test it out. You can download it. Okay. Then apart from this VMware, when I'm just talking about VMware, remember VMware workstation trial, you need to type, and the first link, this is the link that you need to click, download VMware Workstation Pro. Then just download this software, Windows 16 Pro for Windows. Download and keep it with you. And if you can install, you try to install it. That's not a problem. Okay, because we need to configure the lab. That's the reason. And I'll provide you a license key. That's not a problem for VMware Workstation. There is a crack, I mean, demo license. I'll try to provide you a license. There's two things, you just keep it with you. It will be easy for you uh, to set up the lab. Hmm? Those are very important things. And rest of all things, we will do it tomorrow. We will initially, as we start, we will be discussing like how do we set up the lab environment. Okay, control nodes, manage node. What are the dependencies at the tomorrow entirely we will be discussing the entire 1 hour, not 1 hour, 45 minutes. So definitely it will take to set up the lab, not 45 minutes, it will take 1 hour because we need to do some other configurations. Okay, because we need to set up a control and manage node in such a way that this 40 hours sessions without any problem it should go on, right? Every time making some changes, that doesn't work. Once for all we will try to create a lab. Okay, So this is all about tomorrow. We will see the lab setup. If you have any doubts, any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, you can ask me tomorrow also, right?
Yeah, Balgaru, I have one doubt.
Mm, tell me.
In this session, you said about using Ansible, we can integrate with HPSA and Red Hat
Mm,
Satellite.
yes.
Yeah. So what is the use of integrating Ansible with HPSA and Red Hat
And
Satellite?
enhancing, for example, I'll give you one example about Jenkins. Okay. So why you are integrating Ansible with Jenkins? Take an example. When I talk about DevOps side, we will try to do CI/CD pipelines, right?
Hmm.
So Ansible by default doesn't support it. Okay. So what Ansible experts say is, if you really your company is looking for CI/CD pipeline, Ansible by default doesn't support it. We are developing it. Okay, they are working on it. So what they did is 4 5 years back, they have if you really want to use Ansible with for CI/CD, they ask you to integrate with Jenkins, right? So
Hmm.
like this only, there are so many things. Okay, now like take an example. Many people have come across something like, okay, fine, boss. Jenkins is not free. It is purely a commercial tool. Then simply we are, yeah, putting a lot of money on Jenkins. So what Ansible is saying nowadays, recently 2 years back, they have given one a demo saying that Ansible with GitHub, you can go for CI/CD pipelines for development side. Okay,
Hmm.
so like this, these are some commercial tools that you can use if you want. See what happens, Linux example, I will tell you. Linux is going to provide so many features. Red Hat Linux gives you a free database called MariaDB or what we say Postgres. But if your environment says that, if your company decides that, no, we don't want to use Postgres or some other thing because the continuous patching doesn't provide by Red Hat, security parameter doesn't provide Red Hat. So people go for Oracle because Oracle is a dedicatedly for database. Their product will be they will be keep on patching up. They keep on give you some recommendations, right? So like
Okay.
this, so what happens is when it comes to real-time projects, Red Hat gives you so many flexibilities. They'll say that you don't want to invest, go for GitHub. If you will say that no, I don't want to go with GitHub. We have some standards. We don't want to use that. We want to use some other tool which provides you more flexibility, more you know, uh, you know, deep into. The things like right. So we will go for third-party tools like this. It is that. So that's all depends on your company requirements, how to integrate. Okay,
Hmm.
integration part is not in our hands because that is being taken care by the company, commercial. So many things will get involved in it.
Hmm.
So many things will
So,
get.
is there any possible to show a demo on integrating Ansible with HPSA or Red Hat Satellite
The
in our
third-party tools
session?
we are not going. Red Hat Satellite also we need to see that. I can't confirm right now. Just we will see at the end of the
Hmm.
training. That
Hmm.
is not
Okay.
okay because the
So,
infrastructure becomes very big when you try to integrate. Things will
hmm.
change.
Hmm.
We cannot go the same as real time, but up to some extent we can go. We will see.
Yeah,
That is
so
what.
still I'm not getting the use case of Ansible when we integrate with HPSA. Normally HPSA is used to push the code, means automation
Mm-hmm.
on multiple servers.
Mm-hmm.
So how Ansible will help HPSA to perform this? So it will push the servers to perform that particular action
Not servers,
through
only the
HPSA.
code. Through HPSA, it will try to push the code.
HPSA itself is
It's a
having the automation script.
okay.
So how
No,
Ansible play a role here?
basically, see what happened is I don't know exactly more about HPSA.
Yep.
So as you said, it is only used for assume that it is only used for automation,
Mm,
right?
uh,
I
yeah,
mean, is
we
it
use
used
it.
to
We use it for patching servers.
Acha, acha,
in
acha.
enterprise
Maybe.
level, not only
Mhm,
patching, also kernel updates we will push
mhm,
using HPSA, and also any
mhm,
agents we will use HPSA for installing. So
mhm,
and all scripts are available in HPSA itself.
mhm,
So how
David,
Ansible will?
mhm. Yes.
can I tell you the difference? I mean, by using the HPC, a lot of different dependencies is there. Like we cannot provision the servers through HPC, whereas the Ansible we can provision the servers as well. And HPC, a lot of dependencies there, I can say. Whereas Ansible, we don't have that much of dependencies. Even I'm using the HPC, so our company is slowly moving to the Ansible. That's what I knew.
Okay.
Okay, fine. So we will see that. Let us see. I'll try
Oh,
to get some more information about it, because even I am not concentrating more on the third party tools
okay.
because now it is we don't have a limit, right? If you talk about Red Hat Satellite, we'll go with some other tool, because every
Yeah.
environment has people are using different tool.
Yeah.
So I'll update you. That's not a problem. We will see
Yeah.
if we are trying to Red Hat Satellite. I'm having it, but I need to
Yeah.
only look after these. Okay, fine, not a problem. That is not a problem. We will see into it. Okay,
Okay.
because this is only a first day session, right? There
Yeah.
are
Yeah. Yeah.
another 39, 40 sessions we have to do. In between, we will see. Okay,
Okay.
And
right?
one more important point, Bala, can I
Mhm.
tell that
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
HPSA?
please.
Whereas HPSA is a purely agent thing. Without the agent, the HPSA we cannot work.
Acha.
Whereas this Ansible is a agentless.
Mhm.
The
Yeah, yeah.
difference, main difference.
That's right. That is also a major thing. But okay,
Yeah,
thanks for the information. So
yeah.
we will
Also,
meet to
agent will be
yeah. So tomorrow same time we are going to meet. Okay, and we will go with the lab setup. Done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Say bye.
Okay. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
there. Thank you, Bala.
Bye. Bye.